Hello, everyone. I just wanted to get started with our lectures. I do have some older lectures recorded on YouTube, but I'm doing new ones for you guys this term. So I will put them up for you as I get to them and get them done, and I will get them to you the week ahead after this week. So let's start out with history of psych and some modern perspectives. First and foremost, when we talk about some sensitive subjects in this class, I like to also just put it out there that if you or anyone you know, friend, family, coworker, acquaintance, whomever, if anyone is in crisis, the 988 suicide and crisis line can get you to assistance. So just know this number, know that you can call it, and there is a Virginia specific number if you're using an out of state area code. But it might work off cell phone towers now, I'm not sure, but just know that that information is available to you. Also, you can always bring yourself, a friend, a family member, whomever, to, an emergency room, or you can call 911 if you don't know what else to do. Better to get help, and if you're not sure, then to just say, "I don't know what to do," right? So this information is for you guys to have so that you know that it's available to you and pass it on. Make sure everybody you know knows that this is a resource available to you. Um, okay, there's some other information on this page as well. So there's a community services board information, and that basically is regarding resources available to the community at either lower or reduced rates. Um, for people who need assistance with mental health care, intellectual disability, or substance use disorder needs. They are available. So basically, if you are a mental health professional, most of them are like registered or connected to this community services board in some way. And basically, they kind of offer services to the community, if that makes sense. So it works a little differently in on each board and in each state, but just know that it does exist. So it is a resource you can use to try to find assistance if you need it. Also, the um, let me switch pages for you. The telehealth support program at TCC is very good. It's called Timely Care. Students have access to this on-demand kind of mental health chat at pretty much any time. There are scheduled counseling sessions available. Also, there's a certain number per term. I don't know the exact number. I'll have to look for this year. Um, and health coaching to help students adopt healthier lifestyle behaviors, and this could be having to do with class or not class. It doesn't have to if you have something going on in your world that this would be helpful to you, please use it. It's free. Please use it. I don't want it to go away for us. So I want it to be available for you all. So I hope we get lots of use out of it every term, because I want the school to know that it's worth it and we need to keep this resource. Okay. So today we're going to get into some different topics, including the definition of psychology, a little bit about the scientific method, some about sensation and perception. That's kind of next time. And then we'll kind of go through the history of psych and some different perspectives on different psychological principles. So, we're going to talk about the how and why of studying psych, the different steps of the scientific method, a little bit of history, and some different modern perspectives. Also, this slide deck is followed by another one that is kind of other stuff in psych that I put together through a few different resources because I thought it was really important to reflect all of the history of psych. And of course, it is not a comprehensive history. There's so much information over decades and hundreds of years of time. But I wanted to give a more global kind of picture to what how we got to where we are today in the field. So there are these traditional people that everybody talks about in all the psych textbooks, and we will go over those people. But I also wanted to add in some more people that were a little bit more diverse and represented different parts of our population, um, so that we understand like the history is not as simplified as the textbook originally makes it. Okay. So what is psychology? Without using the internet, or I know this is not live for you, but think about it. What is psychology? In your own words, in your own brain, without looking it up, give some sort of answer for yourself. Like what does it really mean to you? Is it what? Like what is it? So, what is the study of psychology and what is it about? Why does it matter? Well, it is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Behavior equals our actions and external reactions. So these are some things that could be studied as behaviors. There's so many, but here's just a few. So, how people act in a crowd, why people make decisions the way they do, what faces people make when they're communicating, and how do different expressions impact the receiver of that communication, why people bully other people, and maybe how much money do people put in savings and how important do they think it is. This is different for everyone, right? So there's lots of different things and lots of different kind of avenues that psychology research is helpful for. Then, when we talk about mental processes, you'll hear me use that term. It means thoughts, feelings, memories, decision making capabilities, all of the things kind of associated with those concepts. So, what makes the study of psychology different from just assuming common sense could help us to sort out what's going on in the world? Well, common sense is not always common, right? We've heard that, I'm sure, throughout our lives. It's true. Um, some people are really great in a strange situation using quick thinking on their feet. Other people, not so much. They're better at sorting out a problem over time. So, if those two people make a general assumption about how to sort out the world, it's going to be different, right? So we can't say that common sense is common to everyone in the same way at the same time in the same capacity. Then people have different opinions about how information should be interpreted. People use personal experiences or the experiences of people they know to figure out the world around them. Everyone has different experiences, though. Like my childhood and my growing up in Boston is going to be different than someone who grew up in Texas. Like it's just different. So our experiences mold the way we look at the world. And that's not bad. It just means that it is very subjective. So, using personal experience does not give a neutral view of a situation. People have different ways of using common sense, and this varies from person to person. So, if you asked a room full of people who is more talkative, men or women, do you think that you would get the same answer from everyone? So, I have the article linked here, but think about it. Like, what would you think? Would you think it would be more one, more the other? Like, what does that look like to you? So here's a chart explaining what this study found. And they did this way back in oh gosh, when was the first one? 2003 or something, I think. But then probably more before that, but this was like a redo of that study. So in this study, they looked at over 630,000 audio recordings collected with recorders that sampled participants' real conversations. Overall, women were only slightly more talkative than men. They averaged about 1,000 words, give or take more per day, which is a relatively small difference. The difference was not consistent across the lifespan either, meaning like the age group between 10 and 20, or 21 and 30, or 31 and 40. Like those groups all had different kind of numbers. But the largest gender difference what happened between ages 25 and 64, where women spoke about 3,000 more words per day than men, but there was no meaningful difference the rest of the lifespan. So from like 10 to 25 and then 65 and older, like it really kind of evens out to be pretty similar. Okay, so think about back to this common sense kind of concept. So consider some of the common phrases you may have heard people say, and these common contradictions are considered common sense phrases that we use frequently in our everyday language, but they don't really work. If we're going to use them in a scientific way, they don't really apply. So here's an example. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And then out of sight, out of mind. Well, they're opposite, right? But both are true sometimes. Both are true sometimes. Then I have birds of a feather flock together, like people who are alike hang out with people with each other, right? But also opposites attract. Totally true, right? Totally true sometimes. Then I have look before you leap, and he who hesitates is lost. This is true, right? You might want to think before you make a giant decision, but other times, if you hesitate too long making that decision, maybe your opportunity is gone. So, both very contradictory. So, we need to be able to answer questions about these things scientifically or about life scientifically. And how do we do that? How do we answer questions scientifically? Well, we use research, and we use research in a way, it's a systematic investigation into something to establish facts and to reach new conclusions. So it's purposeful. It's not just thinking about it and writing down an answer. It's a system of investigation. So scientific testing needs to be specific. It involves figuring out what we would expect to observe if an idea were correct and comparing that expectation to what we actually see. So let's talk about the scientific method for just a moment. So, in general, you are observing something, you're asking a question, you're creating a hypothesis, an idea about what you think would answer this question. Then you do an experiment, you get information back from that experiment, and then you reach a conclusion. Was your hypothesis correct, or were you kind of not exactly correct, right? So you get some results and then you communicate it to others or make it so that people understand your experiment, what you did, and then what you found. So the scientific method is a method or procedure that has characterized natural science since the 17th century. So it's these 6 steps or 5 steps. You could argue there's 20 steps if you want to break them down into little pieces, but in general, these are the steps. So, an hypothesis, if you're not familiar with the term or it's been a while since you've heard it, it is a proposed explanation made based on limited evidence as a starting point for further work, further investigation. So, something that you think might be true, and then you do your experiment to figure out if you're right or if you're wrong. Like, is the thing true or not true? This graphic offers a more in depth description of the steps and the scientific method. They are the same as the previous page. There's just more, right? They broke it down into more kind of pieces. So if you're interested in this as a concept, I think this is helpful because instead of just saying ask a question, it gives you like more information about how we manage this process. Okay, so here is my example. So, and I didn't actually do this study, but I kind of set it up in a way that was specific so we could talk about like why it's important to be specific when we do studies. So, my example, I have a garden, which I do, and I think a name brand fertilizer is better than a more generic or off brand fertilizer. And if you look at the price for these two items, there is a 100% price increase between the two. So they are essentially kind of the same, right? They're both for garden soil, but one is double the price of the other. Okay, so I formulate a testable hypothesis. So I plant the same type of plants in the same area in the garden, and I use fertilizer A on or soil A on one half and soil B on the other half. And my theory, my hypothesis is that the plants with A should grow faster. So I plant the plants, I apply the fertilizer, and I label which one is getting which soil. Um, and I keep track of their progress each week. So this is me doing a study to test a hypothesis and collecting data. So after a few weeks, I check the data that I've collected and I see that the two groups of plants are pretty much the same. They're the same height, they have the same number of leaves. The data do not support my hypothesis. And data is used as a singular and plural. It's weird, but that is accurate. So the data do not support uh my hypothesis is fine. I know it sounds weird, but that's how we say it. So, okay, I have two little charts that I set up, leaf growth per week, height growth per week, and then I kind of charted it out and you can see all the lines are like super similar. So then I communicate my results to others. I don't really have a garden website. This is pretend, but I post on my garden website. I let my results out. I say what happened and I say, here is the difference in growth for my test plants. There's none, right? So really the fancy brand and the off brand are it's the price is crazy different for what reason. So and I put all my details on there. And that's the important part. I put all the details here so that if someone else wanted to repeat my study, they could. And although I didn't do this experiment technically, these are pictures of my garden and my dogs and stuff. There's Frank and Lou, but I put all the details. So plants and soil were bought from this place, what month, What did I do? What zone am I in? How much sunlight did they get? I put everything in there, right? So that way it's repeatable. So if somebody wants to redo my study, they can, and they can compare their results to my results. So here is the rundown of what I just mentioned, right? So we stated a problem. So I have a garden, and I think the two soil types with the two different fertilizer things are going to be different, expensive, better, right? I formulated a testable hypothesis. So I got the same type of plants, put them in the garden, used the two different products, and assumed one with the expensive product would go faster. Then I did the study, I collected data, I checked my data with what I thought, and I was wrong, right? That's okay. Wrong is still an answer. It's still data. So I then communicated my results to others. And again, I put all the details on my site, my pretend site, because I wanted the process to be repeatable and specific. So my experiment was valid. I wanted to show that I was careful and specific with my steps. Okay, so psych research. Why is it important and where does it get used? Well, it gets used all over the place, really, but research from different branches of psych is frequently referenced in all different types of media, all different topics. These are just a couple of topics that could have psych research related to their discussion and kind of content. Childhood development, romantic relationships, mental health, gender differences in the world and in the workplace, how people think about things, formulate ideas, and make decisions. So, understanding how this type of research works can help you to make informed decisions on what you read and what people tell you, and it can help you to gain critical thinking skills. So many careers involve understanding and using psych principles. In medical, you need to relate to different types of patients. In marketing, you need your work to appeal to a variety of audiences. In human resources, you need to be able to relate and explain to your company how to relate to different people in the business and understand their goals and challenges. So, gaining a better understanding of yourself and the people around you could help you in navigating your professional and personal life. Psych can help you address questions you may have about life that you're curious about. Maybe how can you change your mood when you feel it could be better? How can you navigate conflict in a way that is productive versus destructive? How do I work through stressful situations? Why do I procrastinate? How can I increase my motivation? All of these things matter, right? And all of these things are related to psychology work and research. So, better understanding yourself and the people around you could help you in navigating society and the changes that are happening in our society and our lives over time. So, psych offers non biased information about what's happening in the world. There's mental health topics, aggression, discrimination, divorce, and relationship trends. And understanding how psychology works can influence public policy. In Brown versus Board of Education, which is the landmark kind of Supreme Court case where schools were segregated and they were trying to desegregate schools, um, this is the first time that psychology research was used in the Supreme Court to argue a case. Kind of fascinating, right? Psychology research was behind that change. So, if you're interested, the Society for Study of Social Issues, there's this link here, and it's also in our Canvas page if you want to look more into kind of this psych stuff and social issues. Okay, psychology has four major goals. And we could talk about this in many different ways, but I'm going to keep it brief for us because we have lots of information to get through. So, in general, very concisely, the four major goals of psychology are describe, explain, predict, and modify. Describe means to describe human thought, human behavior. Explain means to explain why these behaviors happen. Predict is to try to be able to tell how, why, and when these behaviors will happen again in the future. And modify. We want to be able to modify and improve behaviors to better the lives of individuals and better society as a whole. These are big picture goals, but these are the four major goals of psychology. Okay, let's get into history.